And if I now want to create a visual, it's already indicated here in the middle. This white screen you see here, that is the actual dashboard. All the buttons around it is to create it, but this is what the user of your dashboard will see in the end. Yeah.
Right.
And to create a visual, it's just dragging and dropping these fields, a little bit like a pivot table. Maybe some of the people who are watching know that. You drag and drop it. So if I want to know how much is the amount per invoice, let's start simple. Huh?
Right, so we can look at that as well. Just a note, just to expand on that point. So for those of us on this session today who are deeply rooted in Excel, Power BI is essentially like the new Excel. And a lot of this experience is very similar to creating pivot tables. So that's why Jeroen was highlighting that earlier. So
so you will see some functionalities that you think, hey, this is a little bit Excel, this is a little bit Access. Maybe some people know that still.
Yes.
This is a little bit PowerPoint. It combines a little bit of those
especially the section where you're connecting the tables. That section is very similar to Access database management, where when you're connecting the tables with the similar or the unique identifier, so that you can actually have proper table cross integration with the tables. So that's important to note as well for persons who are real database persons.
Correct. Yeah. So I'm now going to show just a simple graph with the amount per invoice. So what you do is you drag and drop the invoice number, and I know already this is not going well yet, but I'm coming back to that. But you drag and drop the invoice number, you drop it here. So now you will get a list with all the invoice numbers, right? And I can just add the amount to that same visual. And you see here amounts. But are they amounts? Because they are on the left-hand side, just like in Excel. It's more like a text, right? Let's add another one. So the invoice date and also the amount. So I can add another visual here, right, with the amount per date. But here you see a lot of dates and a lot of amounts. So something is not going well yet. So I need to make some transformations. I need to check, hey, the data that I loaded might not be yet in the format that I would like it to have, because I would have expected here maybe one date, 10th of April, and then the total amount, right? I want to have it aggregated. So that's that second step here, the transform data. That's where I'm now going. And that's here on the this button. So we were first getting data, and now we're gonna transform data.
That will open it. Sit here a little bit here, because this is so critical, especially for persons who manage large volumes of data and don't necessarily always have the time to be looking row by row, right? And this transformation data allows for us to be more effective and efficient at analyzing the data quickly to identify if there's any what we call garbage in, garbage out taking place, or any dirty data, anything that may have an error. As we know, for those of us who program, a space, a comma, a semicolon can cause challenges. It can cause you to spit out issues with your visualization. So this section allows us to just look at the cleanliness of that data and transform it quickly, so we can quickly get the dashboards and make the decisions we need to make.
And the nice thing is you have to only once clean it, because like I said, it's saved in this file. And in the end, I will publish it online. And every time I refresh the dashboard, it will repeat the same cleansing steps. You don't have to redo them every time, like in Excel mostly. And that's a big benefit, I think. So what I see in the invoice status, I was using this table. So you see exactly the same three tables as before. I see here, I zoom in a little bit. I see that I have 4 columns, but they're all formatted like a text. You see? And if it's a text, just like in Excel, I can't summarize it. I can't do any calculations with it, right? So apparently in the database source, it's formatted as a text for some reason, but I can change it here. So I can say here, no, actually this column is a decimal number. And maybe let's continue looking at, this is also not a text, this is a date. So by clicking on this icon, you can change the type of this field, of this column. So I'll change this to a date, and I will change this to a date. And when I do that, you see that right away, see, it's another format now. And if I zoom out again, on the right-hand side, you see all the different steps. Every transformation I do, a new step is added here. And that allows you to maintain it, to change it, to maybe change the order. So you are in full control on the source, what you have loaded, what transformations are to be done. So I could also delete it if I maybe made a mistake or something. I can delete it here. So I have full flexibility on how I want to change the data. So let's close and apply this.
Right. I want to pause here and I want to just highlight something that's really important. Right? A lot of the times we think that dashboards are the beginning of business intelligence, right? The beginning of business intelligence is clean data, right?
True.
And proper relationships between the tables that allow you to create your dashboards. So we want to be realistic about what we're getting involved in when we start to create dashboards, whether it's at a management level, an executive level, a board level, or even at a user level. It does not matter. The data has to be clean. The data has to be of the correct type. You cannot have financial data and it's a string. You cannot have data that is supposed to be a date and it's alphanumeric. It needs to be clear so that when you're pushing that data out, it makes sense to who is consuming it, right? So that's very, very, very important because it saves you a lot of time and a lot of headache. So we want to make sure that's 80,
correct. 80 or 90% of the work of your dashboard is getting the data in the right shape. So let's continue. So what I can do now is, I see here that it's now showing a number still per date. You see here the definition of this visual. Let's change it to another type of visual, because you see here all kinds of visuals, and this still looks a lot like Excel, right? But you can here change it to a clustered bar chart, for example. This visual. And let's put the amount in the values. And you see a lot of bars now here. I'm gonna change it a little bit, but I will explain later why I do that. So here I have now a format where, let's make it a little bit larger. And you see that's a little bit like PowerPoint, so you can move things around and you can align it nicely, just like a PowerPoint picture. So I see here now the amount, so I can maybe say now let's rotate it, because time I want to have here. But because I formatted now as a date, it also allows me, you see now that in the field pane, I also have options to show it by year, by quarter, per month, etc. So I can put now also the month in the graph. And the definition of this visual, I can drag and drop it to the visual just like I did before. But here you see the definition. So just like a pivot table, you see what's in the axis, the dates, what is in the values, the amount. And you can use this to change the layout of your visual. So if I, for example, move month in the axis and delete the date here, you see now that it is shown by month. And if I add also the year on top of that, I can show it by year. Now it's only 2020, but if it would have been more years. And the interactivity is right away there, because now I'm getting everything from one single table. If I select June, for example, you see that here this is refreshed. So I can make this also into a nice bar chart. Let's put it like this. And you see that if you click on months, you see that the amounts are highlighted that are related to this particular month. You see? So the interactivity is right away there, both ways. So let me show you one more thing. What if I would use now, I want to see the amount by debtor, by consumer, by customer. So let's put the relation code maybe here in the new graph. So I can just keep on adding visuals, as you can see. And I'll use the amount again. And let's also make a bar chart out of that. And I'm going to change again the y-axis to a category because now it's showing numbers. So, and this is what you see, and that's a little bit strange, right? Because now every customer seems to have the same amount outstanding, the same amount of invoices. And that, of course, can't be right. Now, and here you have the data modeling part that plays a role. And it's very handy if you start using Power BI to learn a little bit the basics of a data model. And Laycya, you were referring to access,
Right.
and to keys and stuff like that. If you know those basics a little bit, it gives you already 80% of the capabilities of Power BI, right? Because what has been done is that here already a relation has been made, but this where I got the amount from is not linked yet. You see, it's completely not linked to the other two. So you need to, just like a vertical lookup, I often compare it with. How does this table talk with this table? Well, I've here an invoice number and I've here an invoice number, right? And so you can, it's a little bit like a vertical lookup. You say this invoice number, I drag to this invoice number because they are related. It should be the same invoice numbers in both tables, right? This one Power BI already made himself. So he made a link between the relation ID in the invoice table and in the debtor. You see, he made a connection. So now all three tables are linked. So let's go back to the visual now. And you see now that the relations do show different amounts per customer. Now the different tables talk with each other. So if I now would select June, you would see that also this is now interactive. You see?
Right. So let's pause here a little bit in terms of just highlighting how that applies realistically. So just as how in accounting processes or any form of financial process where there's a verification and you verify using unique identifiers, whether it's an invoice number, a PO number, or something to that effect. It's similar to when you're projecting data that you're financially analyzing, whether it's sales, accounts receivables, accounts and that sort of thing. Yes. So
yeah.
If you look and you're doing a visualization, right? And this is very common for anybody doing it new, and you see that happen where everything has the same content. Usually it's because a unique identifier that's in the table is not connected with one of the main tables in the source data. So that needs to be done so that everything is clear and that it makes sense when you look at it. So it goes back to just understanding your data first and also asking the question, what do I want to display? Before you even get a chance to bake it, what am I trying to look for? So if I'm running a sales operation, I want to see revenue, cost of sales, cost of goods sold, things like that. If I am marketing, I want to see different costs of marketing efforts. I want to see the return on investment. If I am dealing with finance, I want to see receivables and so forth. So what are the different things that I need to see in my role in order for me to have a dashboard that is sensible? If I am in a role where I have metrics to meet, do I want to see those things? Do I want to see a dial? So we have those different things as we're creating the dashboard. So I just wanted to highlight that so that people can be clear on where to start. Instead of just jumping in, we think about what we're going to do and then we go into that. Right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. And one thing to add there, it always makes sense to have a dashboard is a different thing than an Excel file. So in a dashboard, ideally, just like I was showing here, you have a KPI saying, okay, what's the percentage overdue, for example, right? And you see it here over time. And when you see that in March, for example, it was very large, you can click on it and you can see, okay, what customers are really overdue. So the red ones here, for example. But if I select a customer, this one is a large amount overdue. I can click on it and I see what invoice it is that was really overdue there, right? So you can go top down from this 1% overdue to the customer level to the transactional data. And that's nice about these dashboards because you build it up from the details, right? So you can also do it the other way around. And that's, that people need to be aware of. So don't show right away all the invoices and all the overdue amounts, but try to translate it into a KPI and then go into the details step by step, with only 2 clicks, because I did only 2 clicks from the high level number to the invoices. I click this month. Oh, here it's very high. Oh, this customer is very high. Click, and this is the invoice, right? And this maybe has tens of thousands of invoices underneath it.
Okay.
That's the cool thing about Power BI.